You know, I spend a lot of time on this channel talking about video games. You know, the ones you'd play with typical controllers on a typical TV. I never really spent a lot of time talking about the stuff underneath it. You know, the stuff on the left and right side of the video games as well as on my wall. I think it's time to give rhythm games some attention. I was originally going to do some sort of review, however, considering the fact that I have my own sort of personal stories to tell, I'm just going to do a full Guitar Hero retrospective. Now keep a few things in mind throughout this video. While Rock Band and various other titles may be mentioned, I'm only going to be limiting myself to Guitar Hero for this video. I'm also only going to be talking about the guitar portion. May once again mention the drums and the mic for the later games. However, I'm only going to be showing off the guitar function single player because I don't want to be here all night. And finally, I'm sticking to the main series of games. While I do own Guitar Hero Metallica and I have a lot of experience playing Guitar Hero Aerosmith, I'm only going to be talking about the games that I personally have a lot of experience with, and if I mention spin-offs, once again, I'll be here all night. So without further ado, let's begin. The year is 2003, and a small indie company named Harmonix has just released their first game, Amplitude. This is a rhythm game that relies on you tapping buttons as they fly down a highway to the beat of the music, while in the background a bunch of very abstract, trippy details are going on. This game didn't do too well, unfortunately, and Harmonix did pay the price a little for it, so they decided to go back to the drawing board while keeping the rhythm game Highway in mind. They decided for a future game that they would like to develop a proprietary controller that would be used to control it, as opposed to using a PlayStation or Xbox controller. This was done so that way they could have full creative freedom of what the gamer would experience. As opposed to trying to limit yourself to hitting buttons on a controller to the beat of the rhythm, how about using a guitar controller? While this idea was coming to mind, they also developed another game called Karaoke Revolution, which had a very, very high reception. A lot of people liked seeing the more realistic aesthetics of seeing people on a stage as opposed to a bunch of abstract visuals. So Harmonix decided to combine these two ideas together, and in 2005, Guitar Hero was released for the PlayStation 2. Now for those that don't know how this game works, I'll give you a quick rundown. At the start of the game, you get the option of Career or Quick Play, and you can select any song from either of those categories where you're given a set list. After a most likely decently long loading screen, you're brought to the actual game where 3 items pop on screen: the score gauge, the rock meter, and the highway, where you're going to be spending most of your time looking. I'll explain the highway first since it's the most difficult to understand, yet it's still a very simple concept. Whenever you see a colored orb fly down the highway, you have to press the corresponding fret on your plastic guitar. For example, if you see the green orb hit the green fret, the red orb hit the red fret, etc., just keep going up the neck. Now, as ridiculous as playing a plastic guitar in front of a TV looks, about 10 years ago, this was extremely common. Now back to the frets, they vary on your difficulty level. If you're playing on easy, you only have to worry about the first 3 frets, green, red, and yellow. If you're playing on medium, then you're going to be playing the blue fret, and if you're playing on hard or expert, you're going to be playing the orange fret, using all 5. If you see 2 colored orbs coming at you at the same time, simply press both frets together and perform a chord. And if you see an elongated note flying at you, hold down the fret and you can use the whammy bar to get some extra points. If you see star frets coming at you, that indicates star power. Basically, if you're sucking really badly at a song, or if you just want to get some extra points, simply hit star notes consecutively and fill up your meter, and then activate star power where all of your points are doubled. If you have a ×4 multiplier over on the score meter, you'll get 8 times the points, meaning that you can rebuild your score in no time. Speaking of, the score meter is located on the left, and it's basically exactly what it sounds like. It tells you your score. If you look at the little times multiplier underneath it, you can see how well you're doing. If you hit enough notes in a row, you'll get a ×4 multiplier, which means that your score is times whatever that number is. You can only go up to 4, but as stated earlier, when you use star power, it can go up to 8. Now that may sound like a lot to handle, but trust me, it's as easy as just pressing whatever button comes flying at you. It's very, very simple to understand. If you're playing in a tournament or doing any sort of versus multiplayer, then you might want to keep an eye on the score and the rock meter, but for the most part, as long as you're playing the song that it tells you to play, you'll know when you do well and you'll know when you do badly. No, seriously, trust me, you will know when you do badly. Or at least that's the job of the rock meter. You want to try to stay in green as long as possible, and if you do end up failing a song, you can just repeat it and do it again. Now, if you're wondering about all the stuff going on in the background, ignore it. It's there to distract you, pretty much. And while it is very entertaining for onlookers to look at, you don't want to look at it, because then you're not paying attention to the highway. And what happens if you're driving and you don't pay attention to the highway, you crash your car. And it's the exact same thing here. Your skills will dip and you won't do well if you're not paying attention to the highway. However, for the purpose of this video, I will give a brief overview of what's going on in the background. If you're playing career mode, you do get a choice of who you want your rocker to be, your little emoticon avatar in the background, and what guitar you want them to play. There isn't much of a choice, however, I always chose Judy Nails. I don't know why, she's just always been my good luck charm. Then, just like before, you select a song from the game's set list and you play the game. If you're playing quick play, then these characters and guitars will vary, so you don't really get much of a choice there. The setlist itself is relatively memorable, incorporating a lot of classic rock songs with then modern hits. And while none of the tracks are particularly original, I mean, come on, raise your hand if you've never heard I Love Rock and Roll before. 0 of you raised your hands. It's still interesting to see all these classic rock songs redone in a slightly covered modern style. Yes, these are cover bands, they are not the original artists. I never understood why, but apparently it was a stylistic decision as opposed to a licensing one. And that's pretty much it for the first Guitar Hero game. There's not a hell of a lot to talk about, it's pretty much what you see is what you get. So, in conclusion, do I ever go back to the original Guitar Hero game when I want some rhythm action? The answer to that is a wholehearted hell no! This game has aged terribly and it doesn't have any of the features that make the future games better. For example, you see this aspect ratio? It's kind of hard not to notice all the black screen. There is no option to go widescreen, which is pretty much inexcusable considering the fact that in 2005 nearly everyone had a widescreen television. It also lacked calibration, which is why I've been missing so many notes throughout this video if you've been keeping track. If you're playing this game on a CRT or a boob tube television, then there's no reason that it should be calibrated. However, nowadays, since I only own flat screen TVs and I'm plugging this game into a game capture device, calibration would have been really nice, because the entire duration of this video, when I was recording it, all I heard was Harmonix knew they had a hit on their hands, though, because the very next year, yes, only 1 year later, they released the sequel, Guitar Hero 2, on November 7th, 2006. Let's see if this one has any improvements. Holy crap, it's 16:9. Oh, well, that already makes me happy. Also, look at this set list. It's so much longer, and there's so many more well-known tracks, including bonus tracks. Ooh, they got Buckethead on here. Yep, nope, okay, yep, nope, okay. Yeah, for some reason, I'm having a bit of technical difficulty with Guitar Hero 2. No matter how many times I calibrate this goddamn game, it just refuses to work. Look at this. I go into the menu, recalibrate the system, sit through about a dozen more loading screens, go back to the quick play selection, select a brand new song, I select the easiest, sit through another loading screen in the intro animation, start the song again, fail it, think it's my fault this time, restart the song, and then fail it again and realize that it isn't my fault. What the hell happened? Does the calibration just not work in this game? So I tried this about a billion more times, kept failing them over and over, and eventually just said F it, it's time to emulate this shit. Now don't get me wrong, I hate emulation, and rhythm games should never be emulated, under punishment by death of course. However, I feel that I deserve a special exception, so you're going to see some missing textures and graphical issues. I promise that is not my fault, that is the emulator. Now, back to Guitar Hero 2. The sequel vastly improves on what the original game laid down for its groundwork, and oh my goodness, is it much better. The game feels a lot smoother, it feels a lot more fair, too. Maybe that's the intense calibration that can be accessed using an emulated copy, though. Everything's an improvement. There's more characters, more stages, it's a lot more fun to play, there's a lot more recognizable songs. The only complaint I have would be the cover bands, who sound even worse this time. Seriously, listen to this Alice in Chains cover. It doesn't sound like them, it sounds like a mouse's mating call. Aside from that one minor issue, Guitar Hero 2 is an amazing game, one of the best in the series actually, and it has tons of amazing songs to go with it. As well as, I believe, DLC for the Xbox 360 version. Yeah, this game was also ported to that. Microsoft didn't want any part of Guitar Hero 1, however, Guitar Hero 2, they're all over that shit. They even produced a sequel called Guitar Hero Encore Rocks the 80s, which is a game that I've owned, yet I still have not played. From what I've seen on YouTube, it's basically Guitar Hero 2 with 80s songs. So, yeah, have fun. Now, a lot of companies were eyeing up Harmonix as an indie brand, especially considering the fact that Activision had just purchased their subsidiary, Red Octane. So, they were sold off to Viacom in 2006, shockingly enough. But the problem was Guitar Hero itself was still owned by Activision. So Activision frantically hired another company to develop the third game in the series. Well, fourth, technically. And while they were looking for talent, they stumbled across the company known as Neversoft, who developed the Tony Hawk Pro Skater games, who agreed to develop the third game in the franchise. and what came next was beautiful. When Guitar Hero 3 did come out, I should probably mention that everybody on Earth wanted their logo in front of it. Seriously, there's like literally a minute of logos in front of this game. But then we get to the game itself. Oh, bliss. Guitar Hero 3 is the perfect Guitar Hero game. This is the one that you still see people playing after all these years. This game is old, but it still holds up remarkably. The graphics are simplistic, yet they work. The HUD has been completely redone, as you can see by the brand new highway, rock meter, and score meter, but it looks updated and modern. The setlist no longer uses cover bands and uses the original studio recordings, which gives you the sense of authenticity. And finally, there's legends in this game. Yes, the legends of rock. And who are these legends? Tom Morello and Slash. I mean, I love Guns N' Roses and Rage Against the Machine as much as the next guy, but was kind of expecting a couple more. You actually get to battle them too, and you get to win. You get to beat Slash in a guitar battle. You can only do that in a video game, people. And of course, you can't bring up Guitar Hero 3 without mentioning Through the Fire and Flames. Would you like to see it? This is about as much as I can show you. Would love to show you more, and I have actually passed the song on the PlayStation 2 version before. However, I don't want to kill my fingers today, tomorrow, or this week. And that's pretty much all there is to say. Guitar Hero 3, arguably and pretty much undeniably the best in the series, and I highly recommend that anyone who wants to get into a Guitar Hero game starts here. It's the most fun, balanced, and can be as hard as you want it to be. Trust me on that last one. After Guitar Hero 3, Neversoft and Activision released a few more Guitar Hero games, to say the very least. These future games incorporated all 4 instruments. That's right, I said 4 instruments, not just guitar anymore. Now you can play the bass, drums, and microphone. Starting, of course, with Guitar Hero World Tour, which I have for the Wii. New system, new generation means new controllers, and as you can see here, the Guitar Hero World Tour and Guitar Hero 5 controllers were very, very nice, and they looked a lot more guitar-like than the previous ones. Unfortunately, due to their wireless nature, they do suffer from some connectivity issues over time, and they also weigh a butt-ton more than the previous ones. They did add a couple new elements though, such as a whammy trackpad at the top, so if you don't want a whammy, you can just play with that instead, and a star power dedicated button, so that way you don't have to crank your guitar up like a mongrel. And if you have the Wii versions, you have to stick the Wii remote inside of the guitars. Ugh, so it'll drain the Wii remote's battery even quicker, huh? Putting my saltiness aside for now, Guitar Hero World Tour is just as amazing as Guitar Hero 3 was. It's fantastic. It includes a full set list of memorable songs and a couple foreign ones. Why? Now, this is where Guitar Hero started to get a bit more popish than rock. Now, don't get me wrong, there's a fair share of rock songs in here. You got Misery Business by Paramore, What I've Done by Linkin Park. But then you get Beat It by Michael Jackson, which, don't get me wrong, I love Michael Jackson, but this is not a rock song, people. Everything else works exactly as you would expect from this point in the series. The star power works fine, the rock meter works perfectly, and in this game, you can customize the living shit out of basically anything you want, even the rockers. And the guitars, too. And most importantly, the highways. Yes, for the first time in the franchise, you can actually choose what the highways look like. Pretty cool. I should probably mention one more gameplay element that was really made important in this game, hammer-ons and pull-offs. Now technically these have been around forever, however in Guitar Hero World Tour they are more important than ever, aside from maybe Through the Fire and Flames in the third game. Whenever any of the rock gems that are coming at you have a white crystal, you don't actually have to strum on those notes, meaning that you can simply slide your finger down to it. It's very, very fun, and when you pull off a bunch in a row, it makes you feel like a true rock star. In front of a TV. With a plastic guitar. Guitar Hero World Tour will also give you a very in-depth look on how you did on any particular song. I know that previous Guitar Heroes did technically do this, however Guitar Hero World Tour did it the best. So, you have a successful franchise and you can only keep moving forward, correct? No, backwards. It's time for Guitar Hero Smash Hits. So I popped this in my Wii, started up, and oh god damn it. Well, thank goodness it's just the collection disc, huh? Basically, Guitar Hero Smash Hits was a best-of collection for Guitar Hero, so if you really want to play those Guitar Hero 1 tracks with the studio recordings on a next-gen console, you could. That's pretty much all there is to say about Smash Hits. It ran on the exact same engine as Guitar Hero World Tour, so if you liked how this game felt, you liked how Smash Hits felt. After this point, while we were waiting for a 5th official game in the series, we were given a spin-off, Band Hero. I was confused from the very instant. And I mean about everything. This was the most clean game ever. You could not find one curse in any of these lyrics. Also, all of the songs were pop-based and all of the graphics were nice and colorful. You can tell that this was their response to the Rock Band franchise being a lot more family-friendly. Hell, it's even got band in the title. I really like the song selection in this game, though. There's a lot of emo and punk songs in here that you can't find in a typical Guitar Hero game. Seriously, there's all sorts of bands in here, from Fall Out Boy to Yellow Card, all these bands that you've never seen in a previous Guitar Hero game that are actually pretty damn good. There's also Taylor Swift, Maroon 5, all of the very, very pop-ish bands, too, to accommodate the family atmosphere. If you played the Wii version, there was a game built in called Roadie Battle, which unfortunately I can't find any footage of, but my sister and I used to waste hours playing Roadie Battle. All you needed was a Nintendo DS and a copy of Band Hero. This game is a lot of fun, and I highly recommend you pick it up if you liked the music from the early 2000s and you like Guitar Hero. It's the perfect blend. The only complaint I have with this game is that it's a tad too easy, so I always have my hyperspeed on 1 or 2. Now, unfortunately, this was the point where I stopped playing Guitar Hero as much. I was about halfway through high school, I think, and I was trying to focus on my studies, and I just wasn't playing video games as much. So when Guitar Hero 5 finally did roll around, I barely touched it. Although looking back, that's not really a bad thing. This is where the franchise really started to bite the bullet, and it's most evident in the Rockstar creator. The thing that kept improving game by game now was super restrictive. I can't edit Judy Nails at all. I have to create my own rocker. Well, screw you, I'm going with Varunkel then. Also, the game's setlist was piss poor. Why would I want to play a Gorillaz song in Guitar Hero? I do love the Gorillaz. Feel Good Inc. is an amazing song, but this is not a Guitar Hero song. One thing that I found to be really odd is that the Wii's online matchmaking actually still works, I think. I went into there by accident, and it didn't pop up saying that there was anything wrong. As a matter of fact, it told me it was connected to the game's servers. How? I thought the Wii's servers were shut down. Maybe Activision has their own. Another thing they added to these Wii Guitar Hero games was Mii Freestyle mode, where you could basically make your own song using your Miis. Okay, I think I'm done. Perfect, 127 notes in 13 seconds. That's gotta be a new record somewhere, right? Look, I'm just trying to think of positive things to say about this game, because at this point, I'm just bored. There's nothing new or innovative about this game. It's pretty much a copy-paste of World Tour, but with Band Hero's aesthetics. I don't like this game, and it was that mentality that carried over. When Guitar Hero Warriors of Rock, aka Guitar Hero 6, was released, I didn't touch it, and I still have yet to play it to this day. Which is not by accident, that is out of pure choice. I believe that Guitar Hero died at this point, only to be rudely woken up by a freelance studio in 2015. Yeah, I still remember hearing about this game in late 2014, early 2015, and losing my shit. Guitar Hero is back, guys, and its setlist looks better than ever. And then I actually played the game, and oh my goodness, guys, I'm so sorry. I really, really wanted to like this game. I played this game daily for hours on end, playing all sorts of online tournaments, everything. I really wanted to love Guitar Hero Live, but I can't, because it's not Guitar Hero. Problem number 1 would be the brand new controller, and no, I'm not against changing things up slightly. What I am against is giving me hand cramps, which is what this controller does. Guitar Hero Live has done away with the 5 colored frets in favor of 6 frets up and down. 3 on top, 3 on the bottom, and this is absolutely obnoxious. And while it does look like you're playing actual guitar, it doesn't feel like it. This is coming from someone who knows how to play an actual guitar. This just hurts. Problem number 2 would be the gameplay itself. It doesn't feel like a Guitar Hero game, it feels like a bootleg. The timing has been totally changed, and if you're used to the old way of playing, you're gonna mess up quite a lot at first. And don't pretend you haven't noticed the people obnoxiously mugging in the background. The over-actors on stage are terrible, and though I do like the idea of putting a camera on a stage and giving you the feeling of playing to an actual crowd, it's just hilarious how bad the stage actors actually are. And though the game does share the highway and star power from the previous games along with the multiplier, it just doesn't feel the same. It doesn't feel like it should be called Guitar Hero. As a matter of fact, I'm positive that it's only called Guitar Hero to get people interested. One of the biggest changes for Guitar Hero Live is the lack of a rock meter. You actually have to look at the audience and see how they're reacting to your music. This unfortunately means that there's no animations, which means you're going to be looking at the exact same thing on the background every time you play the song. However, none of that really matters, because problem number 3 is the biggest problem. The setlist frickin' sucks! I don't mean all of it, but the grand majority of it doesn't even deserve to be here. There are some good bands in here, like I'm finally glad to hear Hailstorm in a rhythm game, for fuck's sake, it took long enough, and Green Day, once again, finally in a Guitar Hero game, but why does it matter if the gameplay isn't fun and if it's followed up by Eminem? You know, I'm not really sure what Eminem has to do with Guitar Hero, but hey, you know, you gotta have at least one fluke track. There was Feel Good Inc. on Guitar Hero 5. I'm sure that's the worst it gets. What's this? Nope. Why would they put Skrillex on a Guitar Hero game? How could you put Skrillex on a Guitar Hero game? You can't play dubstep with a guitar. That's never been a thing. So yeah, if it wasn't blatantly obvious, I don't like Guitar Hero Live. At all, I mean. I feel like Guitar Hero did need a reboot, and I feel like you can still pull something great out of this franchise. But this isn't it. Trust me. This is not it. On a lighter note, Rock Band 4? That's not too bad, and I plan on doing a retrospective on Rock Band sometime in the future. And hey, no matter how much I hate Guitar Hero Live, I can always go back and play the originals. And that's my favorite thing about these rhythm games. They all age relatively decently, with the exception of the first one, Guitar Hero Live, which is already outdated. I highly recommend that you check out a Guitar Hero game if you somehow avoided them. You can get them for very cheap. Hell, you can find the guitars at Goodwill. So yeah, definitely go check it out if you haven't. This has been DanRock, and I hope you've enjoyed this little retrospective.